Hello and welcome everyone to our live Australian market update and with People to People. And we've got a very special guest today, which I will introduce in a moment. Firstly, I just would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the many lands that we meet on today, including the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, which is the land that I come to you from today. Where we are. So we're going to start today with a little bit of information around stats. We're going to look at some of our hot jobs for the week. And then we have a very special guest in Charles Cameron, who is the CEO of the Recruitment, Staffing and Consulting Association of Australia and New Zealand, and also the Vice President of the World Employment Confederation. So lots of really interesting data coming out of the RCSA jobs report today that we'll speak to Charles about. So firstly, we're going to look at our stat of the week. So our stat of the week this week is around the length of time it's taking for candidates to find roles. Not the happiest topic. Unfortunately, it is taking a little bit longer to do that. And we saw yesterday, I was speaking yesterday to ABC reporter David Taylor about the fact that the unemployment rate has edged up by just a little bit from 4 to 4.1%. And what that is related to mostly is we're still seeing strong jobs growth. In fact, job growth is stronger than it was pre-COVID, but the entrance to the market, that has increased. So we have a lot more people coming out of study, more people coming from overseas, and also more people looking for a second job or additional work to what they're doing at the moment, or rejoining the workforce after having a break. So it is that is outstripping the pace of job growth, and that's why we've seen the unemployment rate go up to 4.1%. Let's look now at some of the opportunities that we have on the topic of jobs. Let's look at some of the jobs that we do have for you this week. Firstly, we've got a senior accounts officer role, which is in Queensland. Next, we have, just on that one, you would reach out to Madison Parker. We've got our next opportunity as well, which is a senior finance analyst that is based in Toorak in Victoria, paying up to $130,000, where you can reach out to Vasilla or Zara Morton in our team here in Melbourne. We've also got some great working holiday based roles, temp and contract opportunities. We've got a contracts executive, a coordinator position, and also a warehouse assistant. These are looking at really the mobility that we have across our workforce here as well at People to People. If you're based in the UK, you want to come to Australia, we can help you. If you're based in Australia or New Zealand and you want to move around to one of our other branches and speak to consultants in those branches, we can certainly facilitate that as well. Okay, Charles Cameron, this is probably the part of this update that I'm most excited about, to have you here with us today, of course, CEO of the RCSA and also Vice President of the World Employment Confederation. The Jobs Report is a massive report that the RCSA put out, really a leading report in the market around employment and jobs. And we've seen some really key trends come out of that. What have you seen in the last one, Charles?
Yeah, hi, Erin. Look, it's quite interesting when we look at the number of jobs that are actually being posted, which is essentially what the jobs report reports on. And of course, in this day and age, that's primary digital posting of jobs. It's quite interesting in the sense that we're seeing a continued decline. But again, one of the things we need to understand, of course, is that this is coming off a period within the Australian economy which was certainly 18 months ago, really, really high. So we're seeing a continued normalisation. And when I say normalisation, it's interesting because if we actually look at the index, we're now at a point where we're quite similar to where we were just pre-COVID. Okay, so you might argue, well, we'd like to be, have grown and be more buoyant than that. But of course, we know that GDP has sort of come off and we're all feeling like the economy is coming off. But as you just reported, we're still seeing jobs growth occur. Yes. It's just a question of where is it coming off. So the other thing that's interesting is when we look at the index, it's actually quite similar to around December 2021. So again, probably just prior to that big spike that occurred. So it's not all bad news, but it is continuing to decline. And we're especially seeing that ongoing decline occurring in the ICT sector. We're seeing it more and more, I guess, severe in professional segments and also in executive and management. And the other thing as well is we're seeing a continued decline in trades as well. So it's quite an interesting period, but it's important not to, get too concerned at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually spoke to ABC about that yesterday, Charles. They asked the question, are you expecting big redundancies? And no one has a crystal ball, but typically in these sort of economic cycles, we see employers tend to go relatively early with that type of activity. And this has been going on for a while. So for us, we would be surprised if we saw, very big rounds of redundancies at this point. However, there is that expectation of a slow increase perhaps in the unemployment rate, and that's certainly sort of coming through in your data. But you're right, we don't need to hit the panic button. There's definitely good news in there. I saw how I think it was accommodation and food services came back a bit, which was lovely to see.
Increased. It's the one sector, Erin, that we actually saw an increase in the number of job postings, which I must say surprised me given the fact that, but again, maybe more people are actually choosing to actually go and enjoy themselves within Australia rather than going overseas.
Yeah, it was very pleasing to see. And on the flip side, we saw those sort of impacts in mining. That sector, we've seen the impact, as you said, within the technology space as well. And I think what's been interesting to look at in your data in the jobs report is in previous slower economic periods like this, we often see those business support level roles hit quite hard first, but actually it's more that professional technical level that is getting hit, along with the exec that often goes. So it's slow though, isn't it? It's not been a big dramatic moves in the job market. It has been a little bit of a slow year in the sense that this data is kind of emerging over time. We've still got that incredibly strong job growth compared to pre-COVID levels. But the entrants coming into the market are outstripping that at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, what's also interesting is we're seeing that there has been a bigger drop-off in flexible work. When you compare that to permanent, might indicate that there is still a desire to lock in talent. Yes. At the same time, I think it's also interesting to look at the states. I mean, New South Wales, interestingly, although it had previously had greater drop-off in job ad numbers, it's actually started to stabilise. So Victoria started to decline a little again, and unfortunately, when you start looking over to the west, they're starting to decline. South Australia and the territories as well. So Tasmania is probably the one that's been hit hardest, to be quite honest with you. But when we start looking at this, it really is an area where we've got to look at where are we coming from, where was the overhiring actually occurring? And I think we're seeing overhiring occur in ICT and maybe to some professionals. My view, I actually still think there's a number of organisations sitting there and really still feeling what happened when you run out of talent. So I'm really reluctant to let go of my talent, which means that I'm actually having to post job ads. Does that mean that we're over any mass redundancies? Well, I don't think we're going to see an overreaction, and I think that's a good thing. But the reality is I still do believe there's a bit more softness to come in the market. But hey, anything can happen when there's an adjustment to interest rates, possibly, of course. Again, each day I don't know. Are they going up? Are they going down? I'm not sure the economic experts know. Interestingly, in New Zealand, they've just announced that they're actually going to be dropping their interest rates. So we really need to see how they assess what is a very suppressed jobs market over there.
That's in fact good news, Charles, and hopefully we can see some of the pain ease a little bit for our friends over in New Zealand. It has been a lot more challenging in New Zealand than certainly here in Australia. And what you said there around temp and contract and flexible work versus permanent work, I noticed in your data the fall in permanent work was 8.7 versus the shrink of 12.7 on the temp and contract side. So that was very interesting as well. So look, none of us have a crystal ball, do we, Charles? But certainly I think those that are interested in this type of data, they should jump on to the RCSA website and have a good look at the jobs report and really be informed what's happening in the market. Did you have any advice for candidates in this sort of market, Charles?
Look, I think at the moment, many should probably sit tight and be really making sure that we're not making the move unnecessarily. And again, as much as you will need to, I think it's really important to be working with an intermediary, a recruitment agent who really understands the market. If you're going to make the move, make sure that you've got the data, you've got the insights, you're really confident around the culture that occurs there. But understanding the way in which we grow these days and we learn and we really, I guess, improve our capacity to find that next job actually is by moving. So again, just do a lot more planning and make sure you're speaking to somebody like yourself, somebody from people to people who can actually make sure that you know that this is the right move, not just an emotional move.
Yeah, great advice, Charles. Certainly not the time to be making quick decisions on a job move, but rather the right decision for you. Fantastic data and leading in the world of work as always at RCSA. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to jump on to our poll results of the week and wrap up our live today, but really appreciate you joining us, Charles. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erin.
Okay, so our poll today is, would you go into your workplace more often if you could bring your dog as well? Our results were, yes, I would, 75% versus 25% said no. So I think employers, if you're not a dog-friendly workplace, have a look at how other employers are doing this. You might actually get your team in the office more. And I think we've got one more. Yes, how often are you contacted by your employer outside of work hours? This is the poll that we have coming up. You've got 7 days to vote. Not at all, 1 to 2 times, and there was a third option there. Have a look on our socials and you can vote on that one. And that is all we have for you today on our P2P Live. It was a pleasure having Charles, pleasure to bring you some of our hot jobs for the week, and we will see you next week, this time 12:30.